right, welcome to episode 82 of Adventures in Inbetweening. Today I am looking at some hand-drawn special effects assisting that I did back in the late 90s on The Little Mermaid 2 Return to the Sea. Bubbles, water, splashes, all kinds of stuff.
What did I say about playing kick the clam on the reef? Melody!
By the way, your time as a mermaid is just about expired. Catch you later!
All right, of course, being a Little Mermaid movie, it's all about the water. Look at all these ripple cycles going on with the characters. Now, whenever a character comes out of the water, we have to have a big splash, and we have to have water dripping off of that character. And so we have the transparent water animated on top of the character. All the water that comes off creates ripples in the ocean, and all the time, the water is sliding off the character all the time. All these characters going through cycles. So look at this water ripple cycle here on the fish. It's just a simple 8 drawing cycle, 16 frames. You can see the cycle beginning and starting over and over and over. Because there were so many characters here, we just had to keep it dead simple. 8 drawings is enough variety when you got that many characters. Here are the ripples showing in perspective, similar 8 drawing cycles. Here, the dolphin's coming out of the water, so we want to have this big splash leading the dolphin. And now, after the splash is continuing in one direction, the water is going to trail in the other direction as the dolphin whips his head back there. Again, the water is animated on top of the dolphin transparently. Water's dripping off as well as the splash is animated here. These drawings were just, as I was saying, I was doing effects assisting. So I wasn't doing the design of the effects. I was doing the in-betweening and the cleanup. And some of these drawings took literally hours. Just so much detail there. When I get to near the end of the splash and I'm doing those simple drawings, like, oh, almost done. And then other drawings, yeah, 2 hours of drawing easily. Flip, 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 do a line. Flip, 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 do a line. This was easy here, just masking off the glow. And then we have the explosion where the effects are starting here. So lots of magic effects here. Pixie dust, this is drawn in pencil and literally just and animating these volumes of pixie dust here. Now this is, you see that I've drawn this here. I've sped it up 30 times as to how quickly I'm drawing that. So even my very, very rough drawing here takes a long time to do these effects. And again, flipping, flipping, flipping. Do a couple pixie dust pieces, flipping, flipping, couple more pixie dust pieces. This is the trident's default magic here. As it moves around, it's going to trail the pixie dust behind. Pixie dust is going to shimmer and drop down. And it's all about keeping the shapes as they're moving down. The individual pixie dust pieces aren't so important. It's the shape that it's creating and animating those shapes, changing size as they're coming down. So again here with pixie dust trailing as the magic's going across, creating the rainbow. Again, tons of ripples, and making sure that pixie dust, as long as it doesn't pop, as long as it keeps moving, it can change shape, kind of like clouds, but it's going to eventually dissipate into nothing. The water interacting with the characters here, it's important for the context. If the characters don't have the ripples, if they don't have the water interaction, it doesn't feel like they're actually in the water. Another 8 drawing cycle here, you can see it starting over and over. And yeah, it's just trying to keep it interesting shapes and make it not feel repetitive. So the chef here is crazy. Here's the bucket that's going to splash the chef. So this splash all by itself, it needs context. It needs, if a beautiful splash is a beautiful splash, but if we don't have a reason for it, if we don't have an interaction with the character, it doesn't have that same, look at the paint lines over there on the side. Sometimes, when you're drawing a character to the edge, sometimes it wouldn't get painted all the way quite to the edge, and that's what happened there. So yeah, splashes. You can see it's pretty simple. There's only one color of the splash here, but the design is complex. And the design's and the motion, to continue outward there, you have all these pieces of water breaking up. Water starts off as a sheet, and then it starts to get all kinds of negative space in between it, and the water wants to clump together. Speed starts to wear off as it goes up. It's going to go outward first, and then it's going to start to fall down. You can see these leading edges here, relatively smooth and straight. And then the trailing edges, much more complex, much more interesting, and that's, you know, just how water moves. And then the groupings. Again, similar to pixie dust, I'm not animating every single little piece there and in-betweening and cleaning those up. I'm animating the groups. Here's a group of 4. It's going to turn into a group of 3, into a group of 2, flipping, flipping, flipping. Bubbles is a bit of a different approach. So you can squash and stretch those bubbles as they're blooping up, especially the larger ones. The bubbles are going to describe the path of motion here. So as the hacky sack travels across, the bubbles are going to show where it's traveling. So this is interesting here. We've got this diagonal camera pan. Here's this background that was drawn. And I remember going over to the background department, seeing these beautiful backgrounds. So that's how you would do a background pan. You would have to do a long background to accommodate where the camera is going to go. So we've zoomed ahead here with the camera, and you can see the trail of the bubbles. Boom, complex shapes. So you're going to have all kinds of interesting shaped bubbles on contact and variations as some of the bubbles will be splitting up. And now, because they're air, it's kind of like fire in a way. It always wants to go up. The air wants to get to the surface. So you've got a bubble that's squashed and then stretched. Let's look at these two here. Squash, stretch, squash, stretch. That's how the bubbles are going to go. And for the big bubbles, we are animating every single bubble. But then when it comes to groupings, we're just focusing more on that. Now here, it's a slower motion, so we're just going to focus on a few bubbles. We just have these bubbles trailing as Flounder comes in here. We had those ones from the clam. When his hand comes out, we're going to stretch the bubbles, and then they quickly revert to just a simple shape with a little bit of squash and stretch. Again, all bubbles are just moving slowly and straight up. And they might get smaller, but generally the bubbles won't disappear. They're gonna try and make it all the way to the surface as much as they can. Here we have some bubble groupings again. As long as the groupings are believably moving, that's what matters. It doesn't matter exactly the specific bubbles within the groupings. Boom! This bubble it's like an underwater splash, an explosion here. And so all these bubbles are forming that shape if you kind of squint your eyes and look at it. And another one here, second impact, creating another explosion of bubbles, moving away from the impact point there. You can see all these groupings established. They're all moving upwards. As long as the groupings are moving together, that's what we want to see. That's what we want to be animating, and that's what the audience is focusing on. Here, the bubble trail just really clearly shows where Flounder came from. And you see the bubbles are moving on alternate frames here, one then the other, one then the other. And as long as those groupings are moving up, the grouping changes shape as it moves up. But that's what the eye wants to follow. Here we've got the magic coming in, pixie dust falling. Bzzzt. And you can see as the magic effect is moving on 2s, the pixie dust underlying the magic is moving on 1s. So we get this constant motion, even though it's chop, 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 chop with the magic. Again, bubbles moving up, pixie dust moving down. We get this really nice contrast with these two different types of motion here. One is magic, and the other is bubbles. Constant motion continues, contrasting. Now we got a reverse close-up here from inside this little ice cave. Stretching the bubbles as something fast comes up here. And then these bubbles are here for texture, just to remind us we're underwater. We don't need a ton of bubbles here, but we want to keep feeling like, oh yeah, look, it's all bubbly. We're in water here. Don't forget we're in water. Highlight from the trident here. Tone from the trident. We have to draw these on individually every frame. We've got the light and we've got the dark, and then there's the mid color that's just the standard. Magic starts from the trident. Magic is going to cover the reveal of the ice here. So this is just the ice revealing on, and this magic that's going along can cover it up and make it so that it can be more gradual. Here, and you can see the little bit of the hole that's left there. Boom. On that frame, it disappears, the ice is sealed, and literally the pixie dust was like 1, 2, 3. That's how we drew the pixie dust a lot of the times. You can see 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then they put the glow on it. They reverse the color, so it's no longer black pencil. It's a bright glow. And as magic dissipates again, bubbles up, pixie dust down. Really nice contrast there. Pixie dust disappears. Bubbles want to keep searching for the surface. We can't just make them disappear as easily. That's a real quick breakdown of some of the special effects that I was working on 25 years ago. A lot of fun stuff, a lot of good learning there and studying the natural environment. I hope you enjoyed the breakdown. See you next time and take care. Thanks.